All right. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome into the Out of Bounds Show. ESPN 105.9 The Zone. We are streaming live on the Out of Bounds radio app. Hope you're doing well and hope you had a great weekend. Thanks for making us your sports and entertainment show of choice in the great state of Mississippi and those of you listening out of state. We're also streaming live on the Zone1059.com. The show is powered by the Golden Moon Casino Sportsbook. Bet $50 there. Get ready for March Madness. Bet $50 there. Play award-winning Dancing Rabbit Golf Club for $30. Several different ways that you can get in touch with us. The Farm Bureau Insurance call-in line is 601-995-1059. We're doing a little switcheroo here today as we clean up some stuff. Twitter handle @BowBounds, and the Mississippi Ag John Deere Tractor text line is 601-885-3776. Well, interesting weekend in Mississippi college baseball. That's for sure. You know, one week you're the toast of the maybe the town and the country. The next week it's kind of a head scratcher, and people are asking hard questions as to why you didn't play well and why you didn't win more. Ole Miss loses 2 of 3 to Central Florida. That's a punch in the gut. And Mississippi State just squeaks out 2 wins. But they're wins. Nobody will care in another, well, heck, today, but another week. They'll just be wins on the schedule. But took 2 walk-offs in Game 2 and Game 3 for Mississippi State to beat Tulane. And I have some thoughts on that. And then we'll, this NFL stuff with Dak Prescott and Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson, among others, is really, really delicious and yummy. So we'll discuss that, too, and kind of what people think about Mac Jones and Tua Tagovailoa and Trevor Lawrence and some of the other things happening within the world of the NFL and what we all love watching, NFL quarterbacks. And we may mix in a little Matt Corral because it's going to be an interesting year for Matt, considering he could be he could be a top 5 pick, he could be a top 10 pick, or if the year doesn't go like he wants it, he may be pick number 27. But we'll dance in and out of some of those topics. We're going to have John Cohen on, we hope, at 7:35, athletic director at Mississippi State, former baseball coach. We'll get him to weigh in on a little bit of Tulane, Central Florida, and some things like that. And then I'll let you know. Oh, David Hellman, Cowboys Insider at 8:30. David Hellman, Cowboys Insider at 8:30 on Dak and the March 9th deadline, which today's March 1, so March 9th is right around the corner for Mr. Prescott, and what could play out in Dallas, whether it's a long-term deal or a franchise tag. But I want to start with base. So, I've been watching college baseball since I can remember, like 1980. And if you've listened to this show, you know that I grew up on Mississippi State baseball. And if you were watching baseball back then, that's what you were watching. Nobody cared about Ole Miss baseball. And, Southern Miss had no doubt a good feisty program, but Mississippi State drove the train. And so I've watched Mississippi State lose to teams like a Tulane or Central Florida, even back then. I've talked about as a kid in '84. I mean, UNO walks into Duty Noble Field and won that regional. '89, North Carolina walks into that regional and wins in what was a loaded, stacked, Mississippi State team. And I could go on and on. But I could go on and on about, other games, not postseason, that this happened. But today, it's hard to win, and it's even more difficult to win against Tulane and Central Florida. And here's why. One, Compared to 1980, 85, what have we had? Population boom, middle class boom, wealth boom, and so on. So what does that mean? More people have degrees, better jobs, higher income. You're taxed too much, but I can't get into that right now. And the dollar's been devalued, but that's a whole other discussion for another day. But parents are willing to invest serious money around the country in their kids. And what does that mean? Well, parents are willing to invest serious money in one-on-one individual instruction, paying to be on travel ball teams, and then traveling all over the place from the time their kids are 8 to 15 years old, give or take. And so it doesn't surprise me that Tulane and Central Florida have players. I mean, one's in Orlando, one's in New Orleans. This doesn't surprise me. Now, do Mississippi State and Ole Miss have to get a lot better? Yeah. Could the college baseball showdown have been a little fool's gold? Maybe. Is it hard to start the season all jacked up, playing Texas Tech, and TCU, and then everybody talks about you all week, and then is it difficult to get up to play for Tulane and Central Florida? Sure. That's any of us. Even as adults, we struggle to get up and get really revved up on a daily basis. So it's why when Ole Miss and Mississippi State every now and then lose to a Memphis or a Lafayette, I'm not surprised. They're coming off back-to-back games against Auburn and A&M. I mean, you can't trick players that are 19 and 20 years old. Hey, all right, this game means the same. It doesn't. And you can't bring your A game every week in football. You don't, right? And Alabama wins with their B game some, right? And you see this was high school football around here. I mean, MRA went undefeated last year, but they had a couple of B games where they just had to figure out a way to win. They weren't clicking and hitting on all cylinders. So Mississippi State found a way to win. Ole Miss did not. It's not all doom and gloom, but none of it surprises me. I mean, you're going to lose some midweek games, and neither team was going to go, well, Mississippi State had already lost a game going into the weekend, but neither team was going to go 56-0 or 55-1. So those two teams had good players. This doesn't surprise me whatsoever when it comes to more one-on-one individual instruction, a multi-billion-dollar industry of youth sports, all the reps that you get starting at 6, 7, 8 years old, and playing better competition gives us a Coastal Carolina as a national championship, right? Or a Rice several years ago as a national champion. That can happen in baseball. Not going to happen in football, but that can happen in baseball and has come close to happening in basketball with Butler. And you could argue that Villanova is that kind of team. I mean, they're not signing the same players as Duke, North Carolina, Kansas, and Kentucky, but they're signing good players who stay longer. Anyway, you know where I'm going there, and so that's what happened over the weekend. You got to lace them back up and get ready for this week. I did see where Mississippi State and Mississippi State and Southern Miss got moved from Tuesday to Wednesday at Trustmark Park, or the Braves ballpark. So that is something to take note of. And hey, Southern Miss is going to want every bit of Mississippi State. And Central Florida and Tulane were motivated, and they wanted it. And that's what's going to happen. You're the hunted in Starkville and Oxford. We'll be back in a second. 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. Hey, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. We're flying blind a little bit today just because of some things, power outage and some other things. So bear with us as we've got guys working behind the scenes trying to figure some things out, and just wanted to give you a heads up today. So I feel like I'm driving blind right now, or flying blind. So anyway, that's okay. We're back. ESPN 105.9 The Zone. The Out of Bounds Show is brought to you by Mississippi Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Center, MississippiSportsMedicine.com. New Surgery Center and Clinic, Lakeland Drive, Flowood. Want to welcome you in, say good morning. Hope you're doing well, and I hope you had a good weekend. Other than baseball may have left you, asking some questions. Again, this is a marathon, not a sprint. Nobody was going to punch a ticket to the Super Regional in the first weekend, much less Omaha. This is a sport that I've been following since I was 7 years old in 1980, so it is what it is. It's extremely difficult to win. It's even more difficult to win today, as we discussed in the first segment. I do want to touch on a couple of football notes. One, Alabama just beat Clemson for a 5-star quarterback. Now, I understand Bama has not checked up, and they're rolling. But, Clemson has had their pick at that position, and I don't necessarily get into recruiting day in, day out. I'm in recruiting because we recruit people and partners and all sorts of things to this business and company, but that was one of the leads on theathletic.com this morning, that Saber beat Dabo, or Saber and his assistants beat Dabo and his assistants for a 5-star mega talented quarterback. But I do want to say this. I was listening to a podcast this weekend with John Middlecoff. He's a former NFL scout for the San Francisco 49ers. And he does a great job in the Bay Area covering the NFL. We've had him on to discuss Dak and some other things over the years. I really like his approach and his thoughts, and he's a smart guy. And I was listening to a podcast with John Middlecoff on John Gruden over the weekend, and how really average Gruden is at the end of the day as a coach. But he's loved. I mean, the typical football guy that sits in a recliner, or which is the big bulk of my audience, or on the couch in his game room, man room, living room, whatever, and watches football. That guy loves John Gruden. I mean, 100% testosterone, right? He's also magnetic. Great big personality, really good on TV, makes all these faces, talks with his hands, he's passionate. I mean, he's a bull in the ring guy. He's ready to go. He's a linebackers coach that coaches offense. And what I thought was interesting about Middlecoff walking through kind of what Gruden is and how poor they have played post-Thanksgiving, which is where you make your dough, and how conservative he is on offense. Here's what jumped out at me. After having Steve Palazzolo on last week, who's with arguably the smartest website in football, PFF.com, Pro Football Focus. They break down all the numbers, all the trends, all the analytics, all the patterns. After listening to him talk about coaches that were conservative, or coaches that actually understand that you should use all 4 downs to get a first down more times than not, Middlecoff brought up the point that Gruden kicks more field goals than just about anybody else. And I couldn't help but shake my head about the conversation that Blake and I had, and that we had with Steve Palazzolo with Pro Football Focus. And I'm listening to John Middlecoff go, this guy is running kind of an antiquated program with the Las Vegas Raiders. And his record after Thanksgiving is not good. And they've already promised him $100 million. And they're not drafting well. And John has final say over Mike Mayock, who's the general manager. See, there's a problem here. More times than not, when the coach has final say, you don't draft well. I mean, Bill Belichick, he doesn't draft well. Pete Carroll is now having final say over John Snyder, who's really good at what he does. Pete's good at what he does, but he's not also a general manager. And so Seattle has missed a lot on their draft picks, and the Las Vegas Raiders have missed on theirs. Remember, we mentioned Jonathan Abram, talented safety out of Mississippi State. Is he worth the number one pick? No. But that's what the Raiders did. And you could argue those 3 first-round picks they had a couple of years ago are meh. I know the running back from Alabama's good, but you can get that same kind of production in the 3rd round. So, anyway, the point is, it was interesting listening to Middlecoff talk about Gruden and Gruden being conservative, kicking field goals when you have to score touchdowns this day and age. You're listening to the Out of Bounds Show, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN, WRKS. We're streaming live on the Out of Bounds radio app. Would love for you to download it. Well, there you go. I've now got the reverb in my ear, so we're making a little progress here behind the scenes. So that's a good thing, other than me hearing myself talk. There we go. Blake Mania.
Hey, did we get it fixed?
We got it fixed. Good morning. Welcome in. Holy moly, if people only knew.
Shout out to Ben Martin for helping pull strings behind the scenes.
Hey, tell Ben Martin that I am buying him lunch this week.
There you go.
So,
free lunch.
Thanks to Beeb for, one, getting up really, really early and working behind the scenes, and you too, Blake, to get this thing rolling. So we think we're going to be back on track and ready to rip and run. I think we'll be able to pull off the John Cohen interview at 7:35, and then we'll have David Hellman, Dallas, not just Dallas Cowboys insider. What I love about bringing on these Cowboys guys like David Hellman, Bobby Belt, Marcus Mosher, is not only are they Cowboys insiders, but they're NFC East and NFC insiders, because the big conversation for most of my audience right now, right, talking points when you're having a burger and a beer with your buddy, is 2 things. What are the Saints going to do post-Breeze? Everybody thought he was going to retire Friday officially, by the way. I don't know what's going on there. He is retiring. I just don't know the date. But what are the Saints going to do post-Breeze? And what are the Cowboys and Dak going to do? You know, and that is NFC driven, and that's why I like bringing on the Cowboys insider. So David Hellman will join us at 8:30, and we'll do 20-25 minutes on Dak, the NFC, Russell Wilson, and Sean Payton. If I had, and Blake, let me know when we're going to break. Yeah. If I had my pick, I would love to see Dak franchised this year, whatever that's going to be, $37-38 million, and then sign with Sean Payton next February. Okay? But I don't think that's all going to line up. And I don't know if the Saints can literally move around millions and tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars, because they're $68 million over right now. Now, they can do some cutting, but can they do enough to actually get Russell Wilson? I don't know. Mickey Loomis, you know, you can play with the numbers and they can run them and do all kinds of crazy stuff now. And some do it better than others, like the Saints are well run. Hey, the Out of Bounds Show is brought to you by RPT. RicksProTruck.com, new location, Gluckstadt, Madison County. Spray and bed liners, lift kits, tires and wheels, all at RPT. RicksProTruck.com. Retail location, Gluckstadt, Madison County. The show is also presented by Mississippi Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Center. John Cohen, 7:35. All right, a little bit better here. it's always good to be able to hear Blake Scott, Blake Mania. For those of you who may not know, Blake has the ability to talk in my right ear, okay, at all times. So throughout every show, Blake is telling me things while I'm talking or interviewing someone. And it could be any number of things that are going on. So when that's not happening and you're used to that happening, again, it's like flying blind. But we're doing good now, we think, and appreciate your patience. We're on a Monday, and be careful out there. We got some rain and so on. And but I hope you're doing well. And it looks like we've got a monster march of sports. Oh, my gosh, I'm excited. Kiffin and Leach, spring ball. Okay, yes. Give me some Matt Corral and Will Rogers. You got a veteran that looks like could end up as a high draft pick in the NFL. You got a young dude who played just lights out as a true freshman when things seem to be like melting around him. So I'm all about that. We've got college baseball. It's going to be exciting. It's a marathon, not a sprint. I need some of you to stay in the saddle and hang in there. You have two very talented squads. They're going to lose some games, but they're going to win a ton of games. And so it's still going to be exciting. We're going to recap the weekend. Rebs and Dawgs didn't go like any way, shape, or form like they wanted in Oxford. They could have been swept. Mississippi State could have been swept. Isn't that incredible? It's just what a sport. It is so yeah. I love it. I hope you like it. I know we're football. We're going to do heavy football too. Heavy football. SEC and NFL QBs, but we will dance in and out of college baseball. I mean, when the two teams can put 10, 12, 15,000 people into their stadiums or the Braves ballpark, we know that you love it and you're rabid and you're in. Blake, I could go any number of directions before we have Coach John Cohen on, our athletic director. But, the bottom line is you can't walk guys, okay, and you got to hit with runners on base, and you got to hit with two outs.
Yep.
I mean, we can simplify this pretty – and I understand booting the ball around the field is something that drives people crazy. That's going to happen. I've watched some studs on the Ole Miss and Mississippi State infield who it took them a little bit of time, second, short, third, whatever, to kind of get it figured out. We're not even 10 games in. So I'm not as I understand, especially, the MSU infield is yikes. But to me, it's if runners are on base, you got to move them over and you got to hit with two outs because there's just too many talented teams that you're going to face, and then you can't walk hitters. If you have some thoughts, Blake, go ahead.
Well, no, I was going to say that's interesting that you said that. It felt like we maybe walked a guy in the first, but we rallied here today, and now we're cruising in the third inning.
That's right.
Mowing down the other side.
Oh, my gosh.
But in all seriousness, that is what you saw this weekend for Mississippi State, and a little bit for Ole Miss, too, was for State pitching-wise, it was giving free bases. Saturday, I think 4 or 5 of the 5 runs Tulane scored. I know at least 4, but maybe all 5 scored via a free pass. They got on base via a free base. And so whether it's HBP or a walk, that's the kind of stuff that over the course of a season you hope cleans up a little bit if you're going to make a deep run. And like you said, you've got young guys on the infield. You hope that gets better, but it is fielding seems to be something that can keep you out of Omaha pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't want to dismiss it totally, but we haven't even played 10 games in Starkville and Oxford either. So,
correct.
I guess I could have started the show as, oh my God, the world's falling apart. I just 56 game schedule. The two teams want to play like 65 plus or whatever it ends up being. So kind of want to pump the brakes. It was a disappointing weekend. You do have to get better. Obviously, that's the plan for the coaching staffs. They've already been in the office this morning. They're trying to get your Ole Miss Rebels better and your Mississippi State Bulldogs better, and I think they will. And by the way, the Mississippi State Southern Miss game, has been moved from tomorrow night to Wednesday night. And so just Braves Ballpark, Dawgs and Golden Eagles, Chris Lemonis and Scott Berry will get after it this week. But that game's going to be on Wednesday, not Tuesday night. You're listening to the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. The SEC Insider Hit this morning is brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. Bundle your auto and home and save with your local Farm Bureau Insurance agent in any of the 82 counties in the great state of Mississippi. You can also hit favorites.com, favorites.com. We are live in the Bank Plus studio. We're streaming live on the zone1059.com. We want to welcome in athletic director, former head baseball coach, AD now, John Cohen joins us on the Shiner Bot guest line, MSU AD. John, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great, Bo. How you doing this morning?
Hey, doing well. Thank you for your time. I'm going to start with MSU men's hoops first, and then I want to get into some baseball, this past weekend and some midnight maneuvers in football and so on. But so Ben Howland walked into a major rebuild, and he has done a good job all in all. But there are a lot of people who, obviously, fans always want more. Now, I could argue both ways. They're kind of in no man's land this year, but it's a young team. If DJ Stewart hangs around, it looks like they're going to be really good on the perimeter next year with Molinar, Smith, DJ, and Fountain. Give me your assessment of where the MSU men's basketball program is today, John.
Yeah, that's a really difficult question to answer, and I'm going to do the best I can with it. The truth of the matter is there are nights where we're at our best, where I think we are a very young, talented, athletic basketball team who attacks the rim, and there are nights, where we're not. And I think nobody's more frustrated about that than Ben Howland. Ben is an excellent coach. He's a great leader. I think he's done a great job. He did inherit a really tough situation when he got here, and has done some really special things here. If you look at who Ben has sent to the NBA and their development and their time at Mississippi State, I think any young player would say, man, I want a part of that. This guy knows what he's doing, and he can develop players. Now, having said that, there's an expectation there, and it's an expectation that Ben has set forth with our program. We finished tied for fourth a year ago, sent two guys in the NBA. I think you're right, though. DJ Stewart is a main player in this. I've seen, just like you have on social media, is he a first-rounder? Is he a second-rounder? I think he's going to have some tough decisions. But if you can keep a DJ Stewart and you look at this young talent, and obviously I think Iverson Molinar has a chance to be one of the best in the league. Cameron Matthews is a special player. Devion Smith is going to be an outstanding player. Derek Fountain is just now showing glimpses of what we think he can be. We have a lot of good young players. I think Quentin Post is somebody that can get a lot better. And obviously, Tolu Smith sat out last year. He's starting to just figure some things out as well. You get all these guys back. I think that's one of the things that Ben brings is a cohesive nature. I think these kids want to play for him. In fact, I know they do. And keeping this group together is really important.
John Cohen on the Shinerbot guest line. You're listening to the Out of Bounds Show, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. John, let's tell me about midnight maneuvers. Coach, this is something that Coach Leach does everywhere, Texas Tech, Washington State. The team is going to be able to continue to work out through March, April, May, June, so on, unlike last year. What's the latest with the MSU football program and Coach Leach?
Yeah, I love midnight maneuvers, and selfishly, it's as a former coach, it's just kind of my style. To watch them work out for an hour and do really physical, difficult things, getting in great shape. Putting them through a very difficult, strenuous exercise And then Coach Leach basically sits on a bucket, tallies up all their scores while everything they do, they're being evaluated. And then at the end of Midnight Maneuvers every night, Mike Leach looks every player in the eye individually and tells them where they are in terms of their effort level with conditioning. I don't know many head coaches around the country that go to that extent to tell them on a daily basis where the entire coaching staff thinks they are from an effort level. And Bo, that's my whole thing. I sleep well at night if I know our kids, our coaches, everyone involved is giving a great effort, because we're going to be right where we need to be. You know, when our teams aren't giving, if a team is not giving a great effort, that's tough for me, and we got to figure out why that is happening. Hadn't happened a lot at Mississippi State since we've been here, but I love watching our teams practice, and I love the type of effort our football team's putting into it. And by the way, I went for a jog yesterday afternoon, and I saw 15 or 20 kids running routes and footballs being thrown to them. And again, all of that's individual because these kids want it. And all of a sudden we've developed some great young leadership on this football team. And I think we're just starting to scratch the surface of how good we can be in football.
John Cohen on the Out of Bounds show. All right, well, so Hunter Renfrow told us a story about working with you one-on-one when he was trying to take his game to another level because he struggled early with D1 SEC pitching. Let's take that to Will Rogers. So that was obviously valuable time, one-on-one, in the cage, learning how to get better, reps and all that. How valuable is it for Will Rogers to get, I guess it's 15 practices with Mike Leach this spring, John?
I think it's incredibly valuable, and I've said this before, Bo. I don't mean to be repetitious, but, the high school football player or baseball player or whatever, basketball player, honestly, in high school, they're driving 45 miles an hour all the time, and things are pretty easy, especially if you're a gifted athlete. You get to the SEC, and now it's NASCAR time, and they're driving 200 miles an hour. And when you go from 45 miles an hour to 200 miles an hour, you're just not going to see everything as well as you want to. It takes you a year or two to be able to see at that speed, see the whole field, see the whole court, whatever it is. But I think he has a great opportunity, Will does, because you could see at the end of the year that he was getting used to the speed of the game and adjusting to it. And, yeah, he is a great young leader. I just, and he's one of those guys I watch in conditioning, and he's leading his group. He's getting, the highest scores every time he goes out there. I think he's a special young man. He's not the arm strength guy. He's not going to dazzle you with his speed or his physicality. But I just think he's a winner. And I think if you look at Mike's career, especially in recruiting, he has this habit of putting winners together. They might not be ranked in the top 10 in terms of, recruiting classes, but you keep gathering winners, and guess what they're going to do, Bo? They're going to win.
Out of Bounds, 105.9 The Zone. We're visiting with John Cohen, MSU AD. All right, so I see here where Mississippi State's Southern Miss at the Braves ballpark has been moved from tomorrow night to Wednesday night. Do I have that right, John?
Yes.
Okay.
A high chance of rain all day tomorrow, so they did the wise thing. In fact, that's why they schedule it on a Tuesday. So if they have bad weather, they always have a day right behind it on Wednesday to pivot to.
Okay. This weekend. Now, so in baseball, Coastal Carolina can win it. Rice can win it. It's not like that in football. Fresno State can win it, so on. And I kind of started the show off with, we've had this explosion of travel ball, select baseball, parents willing to invest serious money in their kids. One-on-one individual instruction at a young age, more reps, more games. Most of it's good, some of it's bad. I don't want to get into that, but playing better competition. So it shouldn't surprise us when Tulane or Central Florida have a hell of a baseball team. But first of all, the baseball team, MSU, this weekend, gritty, never stopped playing, 2 walk-offs. You got to give them props. But there's also a lot going on as far as they've got to get up and running in some areas, but it's also early. What was your takeaway from the Mississippi State-Tulane series?
Well, first of all, takeaway is, boy, Friday we had incredible weather, and, we could only get, a fraction of the amount of people in the ballpark because of COVID restrictions. And I say that in the beginning here, Bo, because when you're a Mississippi State baseball player, just like if you're a Mississippi State basketball player, you feed off of these crowds, these great fans that we have. That's not really happening as much, and hopefully we look forward to a time in the future when we can get more people in the stands. And for those who are listening who you might have been shut out in terms of season tickets or students, we're fighting every single day to try and get more and be more efficient and get as many people. Nobody's going to be happier than John Cohen or Mark Keenum when we can put people in the ballpark. But you are 100% right in your assessment of the Tulanes and the Central Floridas of the world. They're really good, and the reason they're really good is because there is more talent out there than there are spots at the highest level of college baseball. There's just more talent out there than, and that talent's going to end up at places like Tulane and Central Florida. So 2 really good programs. Their Friday night guy for Tulane was spectacular. He could pitch for anybody. He's symbolic of that level in that he's not a prospecty guy. He just throws 3 pitches in the strike zone and is highly competitive. And I love the way he pitched. I think that's so good for our baseball team because they have seen 2 Saturday starters 2 weekends in a row that are going to be just like the Southeastern Conference. So I think our kids have competed very well. We got to figure a couple things out defensively. I think Coach Lamonis is a little, not satisfied with that part of it. And I think Coach Lamonis also, I heard him say this yesterday, we can't just have the competitive at-bats late in the game. The first inning counts too, and not just the 9th inning. And you got to have those competitive at-bats all game long. So I love our pitching depth. Hopefully we get Bednar back out there. Sarantola's first time, the stuff was there but didn't locate it as well as I know he wanted to. I think this baseball team is going to be good, but I also going to say this: the first 2 or 3 weeks, it's going to be a work in progress. Got to figure out the best lineup, and I don't think anybody's better in the country at putting that together than Chris Lamonis.
And so, John, we have a text about lack of right-handed hitters. Your thoughts on, you just mentioned the lineup, so you're kind of going that direct. All right, how long, like when you were coaching, did it take the first 15 to 20 games to really get an idea of what you wanted day in, day out, and then address the lack of right-handed hitters?
Yeah, I think it does take a while for you to figure out where you are. But when you play the kind of competition that we have played so far, it's going to tell you really quickly. It's going to tell you what your deficiencies are, because if there's a weak spot, the game is going to find it. You can't hide from the game, and certainly the game has come and found us. So, yeah, I think the right-handed bat thing is just, by very nature, the left-handed hitter is a little bit more of a commodity in the recruiting process. So you're going to lean a little bit more that way. Heck, that's probably my fault, because a lot of these left-handers are kids that we committed a long time ago. The right-handed part's important when you go get the left-hander, although, the left-hander in the SEC usually has the great changeup that can really offset the right-handed hitter. So, yeah, I think our left-handers are just going to have to do a better job left on left. I think they will. I think they're fully capable of that. But there are a lot of lineups in the SEC traditionally that have been left-hand dominant that just have to, they're just going to have better at-bats versus left-handed pitching, and I really believe that they will.
What's your approach when a super talented player is a middle infielder and struggling in the field?
Yeah, I think the approach is they got to get into a rhythm with the game. what usually happens is the middle infielder gets on their heels and their body gets locked up. Way back when, Bo, we were all taught to keep the ball in the middle of our body and to get our two hands extended. That's really an unathletic position. It really affects your vision and everything else. You really got to keep the ball on glove side. When you watch the great middle infielders in the big leagues and in college baseball, they always seem to keep the ball on their glove side. And in that way, their glove can work through the baseball. And that's a much more relaxed position. This squared up, paralyzed type of movement, that's when somebody's struggling. They're just not in rhythm with, the game. But we have some really talented kids. Cameron James, I think, would be the first one to tell you. He hasn't played his best baseball. He might be one of the best prospects in maybe in the entire country as an infielder. He's going to be a great player, but it's early in the year. He's got some things to figure out. He's a great kid, great work ethic, great family. But we have several defenders in the middle that can really defend. So I think Chris has some decisions to make there. I think we have defended it for the most part pretty well. But again, early in the year, especially when weather is a factor, the defensive part early usually struggles, and then it comes on usually as you get into that 15 to 20 game mark.
Okay. John Cohen on the Out of Bounds show. I've got about a minute and a half here, John. We may have to do this again in the next week or so, but I'm getting blown up on women's hoops. Do you want to address kind of where they are and how the season has gone? A lot of times it's a learning curve, your first job in the Power 5/SEC.
Yeah, sure, Bo. Yeah, I think, when you look at Nikki's history, and I think that's important here, there's not a lot of losing in her history anywhere, at any level, both as a player and a coach. I think Nikki has given us a tremendous effort this year. I think there's been some issues that, that are not available to everyone that I'm aware of. It's been a tough year. Listen, everybody's had to deal with COVID, but not everybody's had to deal with COVID in their first year of taking over a really good basketball program. I can tell you this, but one way or another, we're going to get this figured out at Mississippi State in women's basketball. And again, Nikki deserves every opportunity in the world because of what she has done in the past. And I know she's very disappointed in a lot of facets of the program right now. But we want to give her every opportunity to fix those issues. And she's highly competitive. She's a great woman. She's a great leader. And I look forward to seeing her make those adjustments with our basketball team next year.
John, we appreciate your time today. Thank you. John Cohen on the Out of Bounds Show, 105.9 The Zone, brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. Bundle your auto and home. Save with your local Farm Bureau insurance agent. Jump on favorites.com. Get a quote in 4 minutes or less. You're listening to 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. Good morning. Welcome in. Back in a minute.